Good evening. Welcome to Sound Health on Lagos Television. I am Olasumbo Modupe. We bring you Sound Health every Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. and we try to enlighten members of the public on trending health issues from around the world. Today we are looking at early intervention. Early intervention for children with special needs. Oftentimes, we hear parents say, we did not notice on time, we didn't see the sign early enough. What is the role of early intervention and what is the cost of not intervening early enough? The program continues in a moment. Please stay tuned.
The program is a 3-year program and it involves training of health workers, providing mosquito nets and nutrients for malnourished children. We have also supplied equipment to primary health centers, as well as providing media information to the public. We believe that healthy mothers will produce healthy children and our nation will also be healthy.
Let's talk about nutrition in pregnancy and nutrition in children under 5. What is nutrition in pregnancy? Nutrition is everything that a woman needs for the growth of a baby. And it comes with diet. With proper diet, a child is expected to grow well in her womb, and then she needs that as the child is growing. For a child that is growing, a lot is going, and then a proper meal has to be produced for that child to grow properly. A child needs breastfed first 1 hour of birth, and this is called early initiation. During this period, that child has the advantage of taking the first milk that comes out, that is called colostrum. That's acting as the first immunization for the child. It happens for the first 1 week. Every child is expected to be breastfed for the first 6 months exclusively without adding anything, no water, no drugs. And also, proper breastfeeding also help with easy expulsion of placenta and proper evolution of the uterus. After 6 months, there's a iron gap, and that's why we actually also advocate for proper complementary feed with continuous breastfeeding till the child is 2 years. And in breastfeeding, it is important to note that there are 2 kinds of milk, fore milk and hind milk. And if a child does not enjoy both milk, that child looks as if he's not well fed. So the timing of breastfeeding has to be long enough for a child to be able to benefit from both the fore milk and the hind milk. Any child that has been breastfed for the first 6 months exclusively is expected to continue breastfeeding and have complementary food, and that is family meal. The proper and appropriate complementary food must have adequate diet. It must be available, accessible, affordable, and what is advocated is the food around the community that the child can join with the family meal for that child to have proper growth. A proper diet gives a proper growth, and a proper growth.
The program is still Sound Health on Lagos Television. Join us via Zoom to enlighten us about early intervention and the essence for children with special needs is Busayo Fasina. She is an early intervention advocate for children with Down syndrome and other special needs. Good evening, Busayo Fasina, and thanks for joining us.
Good evening, Olasumbo. How are you today?
I am fine. Thank you for finding time to join us on the program. Tell us, what exactly is early intervention?
Okay, early intervention is the provision of specialized therapies for children that has special needs. It helps them to meet their developmental milestones on time and for social skills and all of that. That's an intervention.
All right, so how do you know a child needs early intervention? Oftentimes you hear people say, or parents and caregivers say, I didn't see the sign early enough. I didn't even know until maybe later in his or her years. How do you know a particular child needs early intervention?
Okay, it varies from, even though every child varies, a child can have good lactose control by 3 months, but typically we expect a child to be able to by the time they are 6 to 9 months, which is the time frame that is advised by the medical personnel. So if you have a 9 months that is not sitting or holding his neck, then you know you need to start whatever the diagnosis. Even if you don't have any diagnosis, you know that that child needs an intervention, any sort of intervention. So you need to take the child to a general hospital or anywhere, or hospital, any hospital.
Okay, this development can be actually traumatizing. It can be draining mentally, physically, and financially for parents or caregivers. At what point do you think you should start intervening professionally? Is it just immediately after diagnosis, or you wait till a particular time?
No, if you get the diagnosis at birth, I will say for diagnosis like Down syndrome that shows at birth, you need into early intervention as early as 3 months. But if for other diagnoses that are like cerebral palsy or autism that shows up later as the child is developing, then as soon as you get the diagnosis, you need to start. But we always advocate for as early as before 3 years old. If you get any diagnosis, the child needs to be in therapy as early as 3 years.
All right. When you say therapy now, as an expert in this field, take us through the journey of therapy and early intervention, Busayo.
Okay, so the early intervention comprises of like four different things. We looked at physiotherapy, we looked at occupational therapy, we look at speech therapy, which is also very important. And those three are the core main points of early intervention because the therapy, they are all different, even though they sounded the same. Occupational is for to learn the child, to teach the child social skills and how to behave. You know, a child with autism, you may say hello and they may not respond to you, they may be shy, but occupational therapy helps them to relate and to have social skills. Physical therapy is for their muscles to develop, their growth, overall cognitive development, and all of that. And then um, the speech therapy is to help them to speak, to make conversations, to talk to people, and so there is no way a child can thrive if they don't have these three skills. So that's why we advocate for. Basically, it's just those three.
Oftentimes we hear parents say, my child is undergoing speech therapy. They leave the first 2 or 3 stages you mentioned. Is there any reason to skip any of those stages of early intervention?
Yes, because the diagnosis, the needs of the diagnosis varies. For a child that has Down syndrome, they are born with low muscle tone, so they will naturally have delay in meeting their physical milestone, which is like crawling, holding their neck, walking. For a child with cerebral palsy, definitely the same way. They will have difficulty with standing, holding their neck, and walking. So those two diagnoses, you have to have physiotherapy in whatever you do, as well as occupational one. But for autism, speech and occupational is the core for autism because children with autism rarely shows physical developmental delays. They may walk on time. They may even walk faster than regular children. Than a child without any diagnosis. So for Down syndrome, for cerebral palsy, the three must be in play. For autism, you can skip the physical therapy, but you have to do occupational and speech therapy.
All right, how accessible are these interventions in Nigeria, unlike other climes?
Okay, in Nigeria, it's actually quite expensive to do early intervention for children. I've seen mothers who say they cannot afford it. That's why they did not give the child the necessary intervention on time. So that's why I am an advocate for. We have government hospitals. In most government hospitals, there are specialists. There are neurologists, there are physical therapists, there are occupational therapists, there are speech therapists there. So you just have to go, and it's not expensive. If you're going to the private clinic, yes, you may pay through your nose. I understand that, but you don't have to go through that. And I get it because it's actually really expensive for an average Nigeria to do, but the cost of not doing it is very, 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 very heartbreaking. So I would say if you have to bite the bullet and endure the pain now, go to any government hospital, there are always these facilities in place there.
All right, apart from intervention, early intervention, now what is the other key or vital approach required by parents or caregivers? It is not enough. You see some, people have access to all these facilities to care, but, they do not have the support. Are there other challenges?
Yes. The major challenge is, of course, there is the feeling of guilt and shame, which is very normal in our society because of the awareness, because of the lack of knowledge that a lot of people have about children with special needs. So that is in place. We talk about the time because it involves a lot of time, and because mothers are working, fathers are working, it's always difficult to pay time to take these children to the therapy centers. I go through the same thing and I understand perfectly how difficult that can be. But I will advise that if you have to employ like a nanny or something, you have to find a way to make it up because it's necessary for the growth and the overall well-being of that child. And it pays off on the long run, even though it may be difficult now.
Has there been remarkable process since you started this journey, and what advice do you have for parents, that are struggling financially while taking care of people or a child with special needs?
Okay. There's been tremendous development in my son. We started when he was 3 months old. My son has Down syndrome. We started when he was 3 months old. He started physical therapy at 3 months. He started speech therapy at 1 year, occupational therapy at 1 year. And I can tell you, by the time he is 2, he's like, even though there's low muscle tone with children with Down syndrome, a typical time that they expect them to stand is like 3 or 4, around 3 years old. But my son started standing when he was like 17, 18 months. He is working assisted now. He's going to school. He's listening in class. He's doing his task. And that is because of the early intervention. I've met a child who has Down syndrome, who is 5 years old and cannot even stand. So that's why that's why it is important to start early. I can tell you, I will advocate for early intervention anytime because I have seen the results and I have seen what it can do, and I have seen how it can help your child to grow better.
I have 2 questions to ask now. What is the cost of not intervening early enough? And what is one piece of advice you have for parents, caregivers who are going through the same phase?
Okay. The core thing, the most difficult thing that can happen to you is when you are old in your old age, when the child is 17, 18, 19, 20, and they're still dependent on you. No parents want that because you've done all the work since they're 1 till they're 20. But if you do early intervention, by the time the child is 11, 12, they can shower by themselves, they can feed themselves, they can go out, they can make friends, they can live a good quality life without being a burden to you. So fear of burden is great motivation for me, and I'm sure it's for most parents too. So you do the work now so that the child independent, they can live their life, they can do things by themselves later in future. So that's one good reason why you need to do early intervention. For the financial, it's really expensive, but in as much as you're feeding the child, because even if you keep the money or you do use it for other things, what you're going to spend, the time you're going to spend later in future caring for that child, it's not going to be cheaper than what you're going to do now. So it's cheaper. And in government hospital, like I said, it is not expensive. I understand that it can be tiring and difficult because of the long queue and the long wait time, but you have to say the truth. I say the truth every time. It's not like I don't have the means to do private clinic, but we know that we have to save money. So we'd rather go to government hospital, which we agreed on, me and my husband, and we've been doing that for the past maybe 1 year or 2 years. We've been doing government hospitals for all these therapies.
What advice do you have for parents who still lock up their kids with special needs? Because we see that all the time. What advice do you have for parents who are still feeling guilty, not proud enough to show off their kids with special needs?
I've been through this phase, and I can tell you that it's a very difficult one. I kept my son away from the public for 6 months because I felt shame. It's not because they are terrible mothers. It's just the guilt. What have I done? What did I do wrong? Why can't I have a perfect child? But every child is a blessing, and they are blessings from God. And I will tell them, even if you hide the child, everybody, the moment you start hiding, everybody knows something is going on, because every mothers want to show off their child. So it's better to just put the child out there. And it's amazing because the moment you put the child out there, the acceptance is actually much more better than if you hide the child. I tell you. So I would advise that they should bring the child out. They should be proud of their child, but they should be a mom. They should show love and attention and care to that child. And if they need help, there's so many foundations and non-governmental organizations that actually helps.
All right, your final words as we wrap up now, Busayo.
I would say having a child with special needs is not a death sentence. You can still live a good life. You can still live a quality life by taking care of the child. Being a carer, I know it's a lot and it's emotionally exhausting, it's mentally draining. But as a mom, I say that I know taking care of a child with special needs. But my advice to them is that they should hold on, they should put in the work now, and there is always the joyful reward at the end of it. It always gives rewards, I tell you.
Every child is a blessing. Every child is special. Having a child with a special need is not a death sentence. Seek help early enough. Busayo Fasina, early intervention advocate for children with Down syndrome and special needs. Thank you so much for your time and expertise on early intervention for children with special needs.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Sound Health continues with trending health report from around the world. Please stay tuned. The program is still Sound Health on Lagos Television, and we have been discussing intervention, the essence of early intervention for children with special needs, be it cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, autism, whatever special need or whatever developmental challenge your child is experiencing. Seek help early enough. There is access to care at most government facilities. This is why we say thank you on today's episode of Sound Health. For comments and inquiries, or you have topics you'd like us to treat, please send SMS to 0035826603 or follow us on social media at Lagos Television, #Sound Health. A sound health is a sound mind. Make healthy living your choice.